No one can run from their sin. Yes, you may get away with your sin in your eyes, in your perception, but what's done in the dark will eventually come to the light. And that's what we've seen throughout this entire Robert Moore scandal, Gateway Church scandal. And as the investigation has concluded with Gateway Church, Robert Morris, and the law firm Haynes and Boone's, we see exactly the consequences and the repercussions that are coming from the choices that Robert Morris specifically made against Cindy Clemenshire when she was 12 years old, and everyone else that was in cahoots and withheld information, pertinent information that they knew. We see the consequences and the repercussions that are coming because of that. So let's listen to the elder speak in regards to the conclusion of the investigation, the thorough investigation by the law firm here in Dallas, Haynes and Boone's. And I'll give you my opinion in the end. Now, mind you, this speech, I guess you could say, by the elder is about a little bit over 20 minutes long. So I'm going to play the entire speech that he gave at Gateway Church in the pulpit, and we'll go from there.
Had a technical malfunction. Maybe this is going to be a heavy moment. Our attorneys wanted them up here in case I don't say something right. They want me to just drag me off the stage. No, I'm joking. This is a serious moment for us as a church. I just want to thank you for another opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the elders. Before I begin, though, I would like to take just a minute, and I just want to acknowledge our campus pastors. I know you're watching online. Our campus pastor here at Southlake, Pastor Lorena. These past few months have been tumultuous for all of us as a church family, but our campus pastors, wow. They have carried a burden and with amazing strength and leadership, and I just want to take a minute and acknowledge them. I also want to take a minute, and these last 4.5 months, the three of us have had the opportunity to spend more hours than I thought we ever would with our staff, and Gateway has an amazing staff, and I do want to take just a minute and recognize them. It has been an honor to work alongside them these last several months. Even though our work with them is not complete, it's been a joy, and I really appreciate them. As you know, back in June, Gateway Church engaged the law firm Haynes and Boone to conduct an independent investigation related to the childhood sexual abuse of Cindy Clemenshire by her former senior pastor. Haynes and Boone completed their work a few weeks ago, and their findings have been presented to the members of a subcommittee that was formed to receive and act on these findings. This subcommittee of the Board of Elders is made up of myself, and Kenneth Fambro, and Dane Miner, who also continue to serve as elders. Today, I'm going to share with you, as members of Gateway Church, a summary of the facts that we have learned. First, what happened to Cindy was heartbreaking and vile, and we denounce any sexual abuse in all of its forms. We feel deep sorrow for those who have been victimized by such despicable actions. But I do want to take a minute, and I just want to appreciate Cindy for her bravery in telling her story, for helping bring some awareness to this issue. She has positively impacted countless lives. And because of her courage, many of us, I believe you too, and the three of us, have had many people come up to us and share their story as a result of her courage. Some of these individuals had never acknowledged their painful experiences to anyone before. And we, as elders, are continuing to pray for their healing as well. Over the years, Robert shared his version of a story that he was unfaithful in his marriage while he was in his early 20s. And according to this version, Robert confessed his sin to apostolic leaders in the late 1980s, many years before Gateway Church was formed. He stepped down from ministry for 2 years and then was restored back into ministry with the blessing of those same apostolic leaders. We as a church knew what our former senior pastor had shared publicly. Many people, including myself, simply believed his version of the story. But on June 14th of this year, Cindy Clemishire shared her story publicly, clearly stating that she was the one referred to in Robert Morris's story that he had described as a sexual affair. Contrary to his version, Cindy was not a consenting adult, but rather a child of 12 and a victim of sexual abuse. Furthermore, she shared that this sexual abuse happened on multiple occasions over 4.5 years. On that same evening of June 14th, Robert Morris directed Gateway employees to release a statement that intended to minimize the severity of Cindy's claims in one final attempt to hide the truth. As you know, our Gateway Church family was rocked by these revelations. Over the next 48 hours, the elders were able to independently verify critical elements of Cindy's story, enabling us to move swiftly to confront Robert Morris. The elders were able to independently verify critical elements of Cindy's story, enabling us to move swiftly to confront Robert Morris. And when we insisted on meeting with him, he immediately resigned. Despite his resignation, we knew that further investigation was needed, and we knew that we as elders did not have the objectivity or the qualifications to properly investigate. Thus, we hired Haynes and Boone to conduct the internal investigation. It truly had to be independent, meaning it was conducted by a law firm with no prior connection to Gateway Church or to any of us. They were given full access to our staff and internal communications, but we also knew from the beginning that this investigation would have certain limitations. A number of leaders, senior leaders at Gateway Church, had transitioned out over the last 24 years. And we have no power to compel anyone to participate in this investigation if they chose not to. To date, there have been 6 individuals who have declined to meet in person with Haynes and Boone, including Robert Morris. Haynes and Boone has briefed us, and we want to share a summary of the facts of what we learned from their investigation. For starters, I want you each to know that none of the 3 of us on the committee had ever heard of any sexual abuse allegations against Robert Morris until the middle of June when Cindy Clemishire shared her story. Haynes and Boone's specific task was to conduct an independent investigation into both the conduct of Robert Morris, not limited just to Cindy Clemishire, and what was known and when by various individuals who have served in leadership throughout Gateway's history. Our church cooperated fully. Haynes and Boone was very diligent with their work, and during the course of their inquiry, they collected 680 gigabytes of data, reviewed thousands of pages of documents and emails, and interviewed more than 24 individuals. In total, hundreds and hundreds of hours were expended on this investigation. Confidentiality agreements, where relevant, were released. And as I said before, there were 6 individuals who refused Haynes and Boone's request for in-person interviews. We are relieved to share with you that in the course of their investigation, Haynes and Boone did not learn of any other allegations of sexual assault by Robert Morris. So no other abuse by him has been reported or uncovered in the investigation. At this time, to our knowledge, there are no other victims of Robert Morris beyond Cindy Clemishire. However, we do want to be very clear to those of you sitting here today and to those of you who are not with us but who may hear or read our comments. If you or someone you know is a victim of sexual abuse by a current or former leader of this church and you have not felt comfortable sharing your story, we ask that you would do so. You can contact us directly at connect@gatewayelders.com. Your email will be held in the strictest of confidence. And to anyone out there, if you are a victim of sexual abuse as a child, please know that you cannot have consented. No child can consent to sexual abuse. Here at Gateway, we want to create a culture where individuals feel safe reporting abuse and any other serious issues. We learned from the investigation about what elders knew before June 14th, 2024, and what actions they took or failed to take. We now know that there were elders and employees at Gateway who knew before June 14th, 2024, that Cindy was 12 at the time of the abuse. Additionally, we also learned there were other individuals who were notified in the years prior to June 14th, 2024, about these allegations of abuse, but failed to inquire further. In other words, there were two groups. There was one group who knew without a doubt that Cindy was 12 when this abuse began, and there was a second group who knew of allegations of sexual abuse by Robert Morris, who had enough information that they should have led them to ask more questions and inquire further, but they did not. Both groups are fundamentally wrong and simply cannot and will not be tolerated at Gateway Church. As a result, we have decided to draw a very bright line here based on biblical and moral values and the values of our church family. And we can report to you that as of today, no individuals in either group serves as an elder, is employed by, or works at Gateway Church. They have been removed. Many of you may be wanting more specific details. First, you need to know that Gateway Church is currently the target of various pending and/or threatened litigation matters, including some financial demands that we have received from Robert Morris, which, to be clear, we are rejecting. Second, you also need to know that Gateway Church is currently and fully cooperating with an ongoing criminal. Clear, we are rejecting. Second, you also need to know that Gateway Church is currently and fully cooperating with an ongoing criminal investigation, the details of which we can't share with you at this time, and it prohibits us from saying more, but I can share that neither the church nor its current leadership are subjects of this criminal investigation. These past 4.5 months have been very difficult and challenging time for our church, but it also has shown the strength and the beauty of Gateway Church. And the time has come for us to look ahead. And today we are making a decision on the things we will do as a church to be better. I like what Pastor Levi said last week. Our pain will not be our template. In practical terms, we're working very diligently to review our internal systems to make sure that all of our ministries and operations carry the highest standards for excellence, integrity, and safety. And we have examined our governance processes here at Gateway, and the truth is, the events of these last several months have demonstrated that there was a massive governance and accountability failure here at Gateway Church. It was a failure of culture. And we must be honest with ourselves and acknowledge that our culture allowed this truth to be buried for too long. When a church becomes centered around one pastor alone, it's lost its way. And unfortunately, we have come to the realization over the last several months that at some point in the past, the culture at Gateway became one where power was centralized and the leader at the top was surrounded by people who wanted to protect him, some of them at all cost. And this unchecked leadership approach goes precisely against the scriptural instruction given to us in Mark 10:42 through 44, where Jesus instructs us to serve one another, just as he came not to be served, but to serve. And there are many things that we can do as a church, and we will do in the coming weeks and months and years to ensure that we have a culture of accountability where something like this can never happen again. So as we must accept that this was a massive governance failure, we must be proactive in providing strong and independent governance by implementing checks and balances on future pastors and church leaders. And in that spirit, we are currently working to make some very significant changes to our church's bylaws. And while this is still a work in progress, I do want to mention to you several specific areas where we are making revisions. First, we will no longer have apostolic elders at this church. We have concluded that this office of apostolic elders, as designed, did not function properly, and we have already eliminated this office. Second, we will no longer have staff members serve as elders. With the exception of our future senior pastor and potentially an executive pastor, both of whom might serve in some capacity, but it would be a non-voting capacity. We believe that the voting members of the Board of Elders should be comprised only of non-staff elders. And ultimately, it should be individuals who do not report to a senior pastor. We must bring this level of independence and objectivity to our eldership, and it has been lacking in the years past. Some of you, I know, are wondering if these governance failures carried over to our church finances. And I won't spend too much today talking about our finances, but I would like to just briefly summarize a few important points. I can clearly state that Gateway Church does in fact have audited financial statements for the past 19 years using independent outside auditors. And according to these statements, and contrary to what has been alleged online and by former employees, Gateway has averaged approximately 19% in giving to global missions. I just want to say that one more time. I want to say it again. We've averaged over 19%. And to be clear, Global Missions Department includes local, regional, national, and international ministries. That percentage does include some amounts of overhead to oversee these gifts. But if you take the dollars that this church has given away over the last 19 years and total them up, it's nearly $200 million. I just want to take a minute and appreciate what you've done. I don't think we'll know this side of heaven the impact that those dollars have had. But this church has given away almost $200 million in 19 years. I do acknowledge that there are still some important questions that some people have, and there are some rumors about the finances. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, we do still intend to engage with an accounting firm that will go through a forensic effort to ensure that all the accounting was done correctly. And I will report back to you when that work is complete. This last 4 months, as I processed a lot of what's happened, I continue to be amazed that God, in his infinite wisdom, decided to use a collection of imperfect people, us, in an imperfect institution, a church, as his way to spread the gospel. But that's what he did. And it's what he's going to continue to use to spread the gospel. On my way here, I was struck by this verse in Psalms 92. It says, "Those who are planted in the house of the Lord will bear fruit in old age. They will be fresh and flourishing." So we must learn from the mistakes of the past, or we will be doomed to repeat them. And an honest assessment of our church reveals that, like many churches today, we've become too metric-driven. We're too focused on maybe a single individual or pastor. We've become less relational, and we've moved away from the original intention of church. And that is perhaps the defining problem of our time and in our church communities today. And we must reject the temptation to measure a church success simply on attendance and giving. Metrics, while good, do not accurately reflect or measure the health of a church. And we must be a church that's focused on making disciples of the nation and spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. And being a beacon of light in our communities, especially now. When I survey the evidence of this investigation, I have to tell you, the three of us were shocked that this story did not come out any sooner. There were some emails from 2011 that were sent to a number of people, including some media outlets, with Cindy's story. And I'm not in any way suggesting that God kept this secret, but I am going to suggest to you that he's using this timing as an opportunity for Gateway Church to become what he wants it to be. I believe in his perfect timing, mercy, and grace. He has graciously given us an opportunity to reset, and return our focus to him. A few weeks ago, I talked about how I believe God is doing a transformative work here at Gateway. It reminds me of the Israelites being in bondage in Egypt. And for far too long, they had become uncomfortably comfortable with their circumstances. But God had other plans for them. They were even kind of resistant to leave. He had plans to move them to a new home. And as a church, I believe that God is moving us to a new place. Our theology and our beliefs are not changing, but I do believe that God is calling us to change how we practice our beliefs and our calling. And I believe that as a church, we need to be about making disciples of the nations, which is much more difficult to measure. This house needs to be a place where people feel welcome and they can come and experience the love of Jesus. This church, our church needs to be more about just attending a weekly service. It needs to be about doing life together. I know you sense this because these last 4.5 months, this church has come together, I believe, in a very impactful way. Our worship nights, our community nights, you can feel it. It's like a family. Around my house, my wife and I have this saying, usually around our workouts, that we say it's progress over perfection. And I believe that's what he's doing with us. It's going to be progress, one step at a time. And just as he guided the Israelites, so he's going to guide us in this season. And just as he guided the Israelites as a nation, he's going to guide us as a family. We will get through this transformation together. I remain so thankful for you in this church. I truly know that our best days are ahead of us. We are healing as a church family, and we are rebuilding our foundation with the instructions of our Lord Jesus, that we are to love our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and that we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. I just want to take a minute and I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your faithfulness. I want to tell you thank you for those of you that have come up to us and told us that you're praying for us. I want to tell you thank you for the encouraging notes that we've received. It's been very sweet. Thank you for your belief in Gateway's future. We believe that God has entrusted us with an important part of building his kingdom, and we do endeavor to be good stewards of that. And we do commit to continually look to him for his guidance in all that we do as we serve you. May God bless you, and may God bless Gateway Church.
I'll just say, thank God that what's done in the dark will come to the light. Thank God that through this tragedy and this awful event, these series of events that have taken place, that now individuals who have been taken advantage of by powerful, quote unquote, people, they now have the strength and they have an outlet specifically at Gateway Church to come forward and be honest and transparent about what they went through or about the things that they're going through. Because of Miss Clemenshire's courage and strength and persistence, she now has a platform, a major platform, to speak life into everyone that has gone through, tragically, the things that she went through. So as the elder said on stage, if anyone has been taken advantage of, male or female, they encourage you. The stage, well, not necessarily the stage, but the opportunity, the avenue for you to come forward and to be transparent about your story, you have every right to do so. Thank God that through this tragedy, that the veil has been lifted and the blindness has been lifted from Gateway Church. Everything is now in the open. People have been exposed. They have been removed because of their choices. And Gateway Church, as the elder stated, is no longer specifically about one man and upholding his reputation. There has been a shift in the culture. There has been a shift in the temperament, in the environment of Gateway Church. Let us all be disciples, proclaiming the good news, and let us all live in transparency. Grace avails much. Consequences do as well. So let me know what you all think of this. And it's unexplainable what Robert Morris is continuing to try to do as far as the monetary things that he's trying to gain, the compensation that he's trying to gain after all of this has come to the light, and that he resigned quickly, not even giving the elders or Gateway Church the opportunity to investigate and to hear directly from him. But it doesn't matter anymore because the investigation is the investigation, and Robert Morris, will be dealt what he's dealt by God, and we can't worry or control anything about that. So let me know what you guys think of this. Thank you again. We'll talk soon.